loads and loads of that. Sometimes you get stuff that's quite nice, that I used to be able to enjoy a view over there and I can't see it anymore. That's another reason you might prune a tree. Or you'll get a big dead tree next to a motorway, so all those cars will keep going backwards and forwards, you've got to take the dead tree down. But 99% of the time, it's a complete waste of time. But coming back to the point I was making, and that is that to do that job in a way that is environmentally friendly, we would have to climb those trees with hemp ropes. That's no problem, we can still do that. We have to use hand saws, take our time over the job. We couldn't think of it in terms of time, which I have to now. We leave the cuttings perhaps in a heap on the ground so they rotted quietly away. None of that goes on. We use massive wood chippers, 16,000 quid each, huge lorries to transport this stuff up and down the roads, because no one wants it anymore, they just want to see the back of it all. And basically, no matter how hard we try, we can't be sustainable. And I think that applies to almost every business, as that Whole Foods thing illustrated. You on a kind of surging platform that is very hard to get off, if not impossible in the present system. One more thing I would say on the subject of trees, which is interesting, it's a little story I'll tell you. Having been in trees for a long time, we have quite a broad bunch of customers, and one of my clients, or our clients I should say, is a guy that is now one of the wealthiest people in the UK. Years ago, we used to work for this chap before he became like up there in the stratosphere, and he's quite a nice bit eccentric, quite a nice sort of bit of a buffoon really, but he was a nice enough chap, and we used to sort of meet him and prune his trees for him and so on. But as he's got more and more wealthy, he doesn't turn to sort of horny-handed, grubby tradesmen like me anymore. He has consultants to do that for him. And so, a few years ago, I quoted for a job for him, which was felling a big ash tree. I'm digressing, I told you I'd be quick and going off again. I was felling this big ash tree. Anyway, so I gave this guy a price to do this tree. Never heard any more about it, we often work for him. Anyway, so I spoke to his consultant, not to him, and this lady saying, oh, we want a price to do this. Anyway, so a year after that, I was called back again, and the same ash tree was still there, sort of half pruned, and all looked really odd. So I looked at her, and she said, oh, well, can you give us a price to take this tree right down? So I said, well, yeah, I gave you a price for that last time, didn't I? And she said, oh yes, but you're far too expensive. Now, on that point, I'll just stop for a minute, because far too expensive, this guy, whose house it was, earns 20 million pounds a year. He often has bonuses of 20 million pounds a year. And that's, so 40 million in 1 year, okay? But we're too expensive. The guys I work with can hardly afford to buy a house in the Seven Oaks area. Now, I don't know how to go at Seven Oaks. There may be someone from Seven Oaks here. Last night, I got moaned at for having a go at Seven Oaks, and I've got nothing against Seven Oaks at all, but it does tend to have an awful lot of very wealthy people there, and I think they leave themselves somewhat open for a bit of a bashing sometimes. Right, anyway, so I'm going on from that, yeah. So she asked me to quote to fell it entirely, so I said, well, okay, but you know, she said, I said, I gave you a quote for it, yes, you were far too expensive. So we need another quote. So I said, why did the guys that started it? And she said, oh, well, they were operating dangerously, and one of them had an accident, and so on and so forth. To me, again, that illustrates another point. If you try and do something cheaply, it puts a strain on the guys that are doing the job. I know that from my own work. If I asked our guys, I said, look, can you get that job done quicker? The standard will drop, and their safety will be compromised, because they're trying to do something quickly, they're going to have an accident with a chainsaw. Okay? So this whole idea that we can have businesses that carry on sort of in this kind of ethical, sustainable way is a nonsense. You have to give an absolute open check, if you like. You have to be able to say, guys, that's the job. Take as long as it takes to do a brilliant job safely. But you can't do that when people are geared up on costs and money and everything else. Okay, so let's just move on to some slides. I'm hoping that some of this will be sort of vaguely entertaining and not me just wittering on in a way. I'd like you for a minute just to take a look at these. I hope you can see these. I mean, there's spaces here for anyone who wants to move down, because some of you are a little way off. These are the traditional craft of the Inuit people, the kayak. Kayak is an Inuktitut word that means hunting boat. And I've been out with these guys hunting in northwest Greenland, and they are the most amazing people. One thing they tell me about humanity is that anyone tells you that there is a selfish gene is basically, you know, talking nonsense. The Inuit people are not inherently selfish as a people. If you visit them, they will take you into their houses, and they will feed you, and they will look after you, and they will share their food with you. I didn't particularly want to share this bit of seal meat here with them that day, but you have to be weaned onto that with a seal pizza, really. But these craft are quite dangerous things in some respects because they're quite tickly, but when you get used to them, they are one of the most seaworthy boats you can imagine. And the things on the back, incidentally, are inflated seal bladders, so when they harpoon the seals, it keeps the seal in visibility and they can go and pick it up later. The journey we're making, and as I say, in my head there are question marks, and I'm sure some of you might ask me some questions that will throw me on this as to whether it is really worth it, is from a place called Inuvik, which is up in the Northwest Territories, east to Tuktoyaktuk, this is all by kayak, to Pulatuk, to Copper Mine. The Inuktitut word for copper mine is Kugluktuk, and that's where we are. That's where we left our kayaks last year. We're going back there this year to continue the journey. We're doing, I have to say, I'm not trying to blow our own trumpet, we're doing some pretty good work, and the children are enjoying their links up with the schools, and that's working quite well. And you'll actually see a little bit of that going on, so I'm going to show you a video. I think we don't go, I'm conscious of you needing a break as well, so don't worry, I won't go on too long. The Northwest Passage is the journey we're making. It's a historic route through Canada's archipelago. And one of the most famous characters that you may know who was associated with the Northwest Passage is this man, Sir John Franklin. Now, interestingly, the British Navy at the time were putting their officers out because the Napoleonic Wars finished, and they had sort of all to do with their officers, basically. So they sent them all over the world to try and sort of look at new sources of commerce and everything else. And that was really what the Northwest Passage was all about. It was a route to Cathay. It was so that they could get spices and all the goodies back from China without having to get beaten up by the Portuguese and Spanish by going the other way. So that was what the Northwest Passage was really about. Even then, it was a commercial issue. Now, frighteningly, 2007 was the first year ever that the Northwest Passage has been ice-free. This is really worrying stuff. But instead of thinking, oh my God, this is a real problem, what do we now do with the world and society? What do? We think, oh great, we'll get some new shipping routes going, start drilling for even more oil. In doing that, we set off these things called positive feedback mechanisms, and I'm sure you've heard about those. So as the ice melts on the tundra, it is exposed to the dark soil, likewise on the sea the same. The sun hits it, it warms even quicker, and the ice melts even faster. That's an example of a positive feedback mechanism. Another example might be, as the tundra melts, methane is given off into the atmosphere, which is a far worse greenhouse gas, incidentally, than carbon dioxide. Therefore gets warmer quicker, so the tundra melts even quicker, and so it goes on. Another positive feedback mechanism. Polar bears. Quite iconic images, as we all know. I think I've seen these in the wild. They're incredible animals. But what we tend to lose sight of, I think they're probably going to be extinct, incidentally, by the end of the century. But what we tend to lose sight of is the smaller creatures, the honeybees. I mean, these things are threatened at the moment. There are whole parts of America where the honeybee seems to have disappeared this year. Now, honeybees pollinate flowers, no people. These are connections we must start to make. Actually, I've just said we. I'm very worried about this term we. Let me tell you why. Another thing about this magazine, as I've said, it's an interesting magazine, lots of good articles, I suggest you read them. But throughout this magazine, I've noticed, it's a real kind of, we mustn't do this, we mustn't do that. We mustn't buy so much stuff, we must live in absolute misery, we must be this and everything else. And I'm surprised that they don't advertise birch twigs at the back of that magazine so that people thrash themselves every time they feel a bit guilty about something. This we thing bothers me because I read recently, and I think it may well have been an article written by someone here, that the world's, I think it was 220, forgive me